Measuring down is when you say, I'm really not that bad. I'm not that overweight. I'm not unhealthy. These are all sneaky forms of measuring down, which completely, like the book says, it deteriorates our desire to improve. Complacency is a pit, my friend. It is not a place that you want to live. However, it is also like quicksand, very unassuming, very slippery. And once you get caught in it, the more desperately you try to escape, the deeper that you go. Today, we want to give you 5 mindset shifts that will keep you out of complacency and also shake you out of it if it's been a place that you've been living. I'm Lindsay Pickowitz.
And I'm Brian Pickowitz. We are the head coaches of the Fitness Project, where we focus on building fit and healthy leaders. Most of our clients are business owners or career-driven professionals where they know that when they're healthier, when they're clearer in mind and they're stronger in their body, they can perform at their best. And if you're tuning into this, we are talking about complacency today to ultimately help shake you out of it, because we know complacency is the enemy of greatness. Complacency is, like Lindsay said, quicksand. It feels safe at the time, but as you stay in that comfort zone, you get trapped in it. And I think that as we're talking about it, the reason why we want to talk about complacency today is because it's this unassuming comfort zone that we can all fall into. And it also feels safe, right? Complacency is a blind optimism that things will just get better, right? And some signs that you're getting complacent are, oh, well, I'll figure it out eventually, or eventually it will work out, or I hope things turn around. And it's great that you have hope and optimism, but if you don't step forward and take the actions to change it, well, then nothing's going to change.
Yep.
And so why we fall into complacency, from our experience and from our opinion, is that there's a fear on the other side of action. And that fear is that we're going to have to confront something uncomfortable, right? And so when you think of the desire to change, well, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. And so when you think of the experience of getting healthy, right? The experience of deciding that you want to change your body, you want to get stronger, you want to raise your standard. Well, on the other side of that decision is a lot of change, a lot of challenge. Mm-hmm. And so if you think about it, if let's say you're in a position where you're like, I can't go to the beach and take off my shirt and feel confident, or I can't go for a hike and not be out of breath, you at least know what you're getting, right? And a lot of us, we tolerate things that we know, even though we don't like them. There's a really great quote from Ray Dalio, which is, you get the problems you tolerate, right? And so we all have different areas in our life where we tolerate less than what we deserve. Mm-hmm. And on the other side of that is a new set of problems, right? So we talk about confronting the fear of failure or the fear of the unknown. If you decide that, hey, I hate where I'm at, I hate looking in the mirror and seeing something that I'm not proud of, well, it's easy to fall in complacent behavior if you look at it and say, well, on the other side of that, I'm going to have to deal with the discomfort of not knowing what to do, of going to the gym and feeling weak, of going to the gym and looking at everyone else and seeing that, hey, there's a lot of bigger people in here. There's a lot more fit people in here than if I just work out at my home or I go to a place where no one's talking about exercise. Mm-hmm. And then the ultimate question after that is, am I willing to pay the price to confront that discomfort? Mm-hmm. Is there something more powerful on the other side? And so that's the key today is, can we shift our mindset to see that there is something more powerful? Mm-hmm. Can we start to look at this equation of getting healthy, getting fit in a way that empowers us to grow and empowers us to be better? Yep. And that's really what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. And if you are in a place where you're struggling with bridging the gap between knowing what to do and actually executing, or you're in the place where you're executing, but you're fatiguing, You're feeling that desire to kind of fall backwards and say, I've already come so far, or, I'm doing pretty well right now. You feel yourself starting to measure down or find that justification. Regardless of whether you're in the first or the second place, this is the perfect podcast for you to be listening to right now, because we are not going to go easy on you and tell you that you're perfect just as you are. This is a podcast that's really going to challenge you to win, to step up, to do more, to be better. And we give this to you because we've experienced this not just from each other. We do have a good dynamic where we can challenge each other even though we're married, but we've received excellent coaching and people who held us to a much higher standard than we were used to holding ourselves to. And that's the only reason we've grown as much as we have. So we want to transfer that standard to you and challenge you to raise your own. So that's really what this podcast is here to do. And we promise to deliver on that with these 5 different mindset shifts. The first shift, I kind of already alluded to it a little bit. First shift, if you want to escape complacency, is instead of looking at what you shouldn't be doing, aim to win. Aim to win. And first, if you want to win, you need to define, what does winning look like, or what area of life do you want to win in? I would go as far to say that if you're listening to this podcast, you probably want to win in the area of your health and fitness. I'm sure you've won in different areas, just like our clients have. You've been winning in business, or you've won in your career. You're winning in the area of parenting, maybe some days more than others. But you're winning in some area right now, but you're just struggling to transfer that mindset and that behavior to your health and fitness and how you take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. So that is the first mindset shift to make, is instead of saying, oh man, I got to stop doing this, I got to stop doing that, really aim to win and define what winning looks like.
And it's really an internal game, right? There is an external, like, I want to lose 50 pounds. I want to be able to hike a 4,000 foot mountain. But it's also, how am I becoming a winner? Mm-hmm. How am I becoming my own version of winning? And the great thing about your own version of winning is it's something that you define. But it is a mindset shift to focus on winning. And there's a big difference, because a lot of people play to not lose. Oh, I don't want to feel like a failure, but I also don't want to feel where I'm at. So I'll do something for the short term.
I'll do a little bit better.
I'll do a little bit better. Yeah. And it's great to measure yourself appropriately to where you are and say, hey, well, this would feel like progress. But there's also that point where we're permanently changed, and that becomes a change within the mind. And so when we talk about winning, there's this really great book called Winning. Perfect title, by Tim Grover. And Tim Grover is Michael Jordan's former trainer. He's also worked with Kobe Bryant. He's worked with a lot of different athletes, and now he's a performance coach. And I want to read this little passage because I think it personifies what we're talking about. We said deciding to win. The battle begins and ends with your own mind. Your thoughts have to be constantly renewed in a daily way, like a daily subscription that you must pay to think clearly. You get updates for your computer and your phone, but how often are you updating your ideas? How often are you updating your strategies or your priorities? How often do you reboot your own mental energy and delete outdated programs and files? So in this season, what does it look like for you to be in that winning mindset? If you can answer that question, well, then the next pieces that we're going to talk about are going to be really simple for you to change.
Mm-hmm. Well said. The second mindset shift to make is grow. Grow rather than staying comfortable. More specifically, make the choice that you will grow rather than prioritizing being comfortable. I know the saying is very common, growth happens outside of your comfort zone, but man, that comfort zone, it's just so cozy. It's so easy. It's so, you don't have to do too much. You can relax after work day. You can pat yourself on the back and say, you did a great job today. To go beyond that comfort is really challenging. It's really uncomfortable, and we don't like to be uncomfortable. You don't like to be hot. You don't like to be cold. Same thing mentally. It's going to feel hot or cold. It's going to feel very uncomfortable to focus every day on growth. But when you think about that definition of complacency, which is more specifically, I think we said it earlier, but it's a feeling of quiet pleasure or security while often unaware of potential threats or dangers. So if that is complacency, and it's that stagnation, it's that pleasure, it's that security, it's that steady comfort, then the alternative to complacency is expansion, it's growth, it's awareness, right? It's being able to see everything for what it is and then choosing to improve, choosing to step forward.
Yeah.
And that can be really hard.
So it's a choice to innovate yourself. I was talking to one of my clients today, or 2 days ago rather, and he was talking about, oh, things are going really good in business, things are going really good in your health. I say, okay, how are we innovating then? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you have a pattern where you wait for things to fall apart, you wait for stress to arise, you get upset, and then you go to work. Let's stop doing that. Let's break the complacent pattern, because you want to be ahead of the innovation. If you're innovating ahead of the game, then you don't have to worry about falling behind, and then you don't have to catch up. And then when problems arise, you're more adequately set to handle them. And so for your health, or for your body, or for your well-being, how can you innovate your strategies? How can you innovate how your habits are? How can you innovate how you're managing your time? How can you innovate the way you're delegating your tasks, or just taking care of yourself and others throughout the day? There's a really great principle that we follow at the Fitness Project, and it's been something that we've learned in our own life, and it's called CANI, Constant Never-Ending Innovation. And it comes from Toyota. So after World War II in Japan, the industries, the ability to produce, were defeated and depleted. And in America was the number one economy. They had all their, let's say, industrial might post-World War going into development of different technologies and so on. But the Japanese had this really great mindset of innovation. And so they took this one little product, which was actually a motorized vehicle, motorized car, and they started to innovate around the assembly line. And they figured out, hey, no one's innovated the assembly line since Henry Ford. How can we do it better? How can we make our products better? And they ended up creating these cars that went from being near the bottom of the economy to the leading cars in the world. By the 1980s, Toyota was the number one car company in the whole world, and they dominated the United States companies. And it was because of this principle of constant and never-ending change, constant never-ending innovation. And so you can use that for yourself and ask, how am I innovating my habits? And this season, what do I need to innovate? How do I innovate myself? How do I innovate what I'm thinking about? And if you use that principle, you'll always keep growing.
Love that. And the next area that we need to shift is how we're comparing ourselves. Walk with me. The actual mindset shift to make is something to avoid. Avoid measuring down at all costs. Measuring down is a concept that I was introduced to when I was reading The 4 People Types, which is by Steven Sisler. It's an excellent, excellent book about basically who we are, how we behave as humans, and how we can put ourselves and our behavior into categories so that we can then adjust or change based on what we need. Now, measuring down is a toxic behavior that keeps us stuck. And specifically, I want to give you an actual passage from this book because it's excellent, very, very well worded. Measuring down is when we look for others worse off than we are, and then use them as the standard measurement rule. This type of ruler keeps us in good standing with our distorted view of self, but fails to provide any ambition to change the image or to overcome any circumstances against us. This unconscious behavioral repositioning allows for a distorted sense of self of being without challenging the self or identifying the weak link responsible for any perceived flaw within our emotional framework. Simply put, it's a way to cope with a poor or mistaken belief in ourselves. Measuring down is when you say, I'm really not that bad. I'm not that overweight. I'm not unhealthy. I'm actually a lot better than I used to be. These are all sneaky forms of measuring down.
Another one is, I'm not as bad as my friends. You should see my friends, right? Like you can hear that pattern show up for people and be like, oh my God, if you think I'm bad, you should see the people I'm spending time with. Yes. I'm not nearly as bad as they are. It's like, okay, well, why are you measuring against them?
Yes. And it's measuring down. which completely, like the book says, it deteriorates our desire to improve. And it's comfortable and it's cozy and it feels justifying, but it doesn't actually help us get to where we want to be. And that's why we need to avoid it at all costs.
It protects your ego, right? It keeps us feeling safe and secure when, in fact, we know there's something greater. It doesn't mean that you don't give yourself credit, right? It doesn't mean that you don't celebrate wins. You don't pat. It's not about not patting yourself on the back when you do something great, but it's recognizing when there's an internal part of you that says, I can do better. And you start to dip. It's like, I need to go for something more. I remember I was talking to someone once and he's like, I really need to quit drinking. And you stop drinking. But it's not that big of a problem. I was like, the fact that you're saying you need to stop is a good enough sign that it is a problem. Now, the scale of that problem, you might not be an alcoholic. You might not drink every day. But the fact that you recognize it's a problem is enough of a warning sign for you to change. So don't measure down. Mm-hmm. Don't compare yourself to someone who is, blackout drunk and not going to work on time. It's like, hey, that's a good sign. So be direct with yourself. So
yeah,
I love that.
Absolutely. So avoid measuring down at all costs. It's huge. It helps you redefine it.
The next thing we have to focus on, the next mindset shift, is to start extracting our limiting beliefs. Now, a limiting belief is a concept or a thought pattern that keeps us from reaching our full potential, right? So it's a preconceived notion about what we can accomplish. And these beliefs are often shaped by our environment, our past. They've been conditioned by our friends or our society. And the problem with limiting beliefs is oftentimes we have evidence that the statement is true. So if you're someone who has failed at dieting in the past, it's easy for you to have a limiting belief about what you can accomplish when it comes to your weight or your health or maybe some other physical accomplishment you want. But the problem is it keeps you from looking for a possible better way. It almost puts you in a box, right? So you think of like someone says, well, money doesn't grow on trees. That tells you that they think that money is scarce. Right? And that keeps them from looking for opportunities to make more money, right? If you feel like money is fixed and there's only a certain amount, well, I have to protect my pie. Versus the true belief, which is if I invest, I take my money and put it into something that makes me more money, it will grow, right? And that's just a belief, right? That's a belief. And obviously there's evidence on the other side too. When it comes to our health, it can be really easy to fall into limiting beliefs about what we can accomplish because we have a past experience. Now, ways that we can see if a belief is limiting is first starting to pay attention to what we think. And there's two categories of beliefs. There's global beliefs, which are more broad generalizations about the world or about experiences or about, we'll say, subjects. And you can hear a global belief based off of the word is and are. So if I say, for example, dieting is a pain in the ass. Well, that tells me something about the approach that I'm going to take or the approaches I've taken at that point. I'm not going to look for a way that dieting could be easy because in my mind, it's a pain in the ass. So it automatically is going to lead me to that place. I'm going to feel that way. Or the word are. You could say that fit people are selfish. Or fit people are self-absorbed. Mm-hmm. It's like if that's the experience that I've had, and I've never seen someone who's fit, therefore they can give more to their community, or they can give more to their children, or they can be abundant with their time and energy. Well, I'm not going to look for those opportunities for myself, right? I'm not going to see that in myself. And in my self-concept, I'm not a selfish person, so I'm not going to even endeavor down that path. Another example of a category of limiting beliefs is rules. So if-then statements. If I'm going to get in shape, then I have to work out 7 days a week. Well, if that's my belief, then there's no opportunity for me to work out 3 days a week because, well, I have to work out 7 days a week, so 3 days a week isn't even worth it. Mm-hmm. So that starts to condition me to, again, think in that narrow box. And then when we have these limiting beliefs, we often settle. Mm-hmm. So the whole point is to question and be curious about what we're thinking, what we believe, and then understanding that beliefs can change. The only thing we have to do is get enough leverage, get enough emotion, and get enough evidence. Mm-hmm. A good example of a belief that's changed is a lot of people used to walk around and say America's the greatest country in the world. Especially when we were growing up. That was the predominant theme. Now, there's still people who believe that. I'm not saying anything wrong about that. I personally still hold on to much of that belief, but there's also a lot of people who don't feel that way. And they have evidence too. The point is, using as an example, it's very much a global belief that you can see that, hey, based off of evidence, based off experience, based off of different emotions, beliefs can change, just like yours can. And so the way you change a belief, I have a few different questions you can ask yourself is first, is this belief true? Okay. And if it feels true, well, the second question is there a possibility or is there a new way to look at this that would make it untrue? Right? I need to work out, if I need to be fit, work out 7 days a week. Well, is it true? Well, yeah, because a healthy person would work out all the time. They just love it. Okay, well, is it possible that I could work out 3 days a week or work out less than that and still be healthy? The answer is yes. Right? Obviously, yeah, it's possible. It's possible there. What would I have to believe in order for this old belief to not be true? I'd have to believe that you can be fit and healthy by just exercising 3 days, or being fit and healthy is about more than just working out. It's about your sleep. It's about your hydration. It's about what you put in your body. Okay. And then the last part is, how can I reinforce this new belief? And that might be just by paying attention to the old one and then changing it and shifting your focus. It might be journaling. It might be with your actions, right? I'm going to reinforce this new belief that, hey, I can work out 3 days a week and still stay healthy and reach my goal by doing it and by practicing it and by testing it. So the whole point is understanding that much of what we're doing is a byproduct of thinking. And if we can change our thoughts, we can change our life.
Love that. Now, to tie this all together and bring it home, number 5, the 5th mindset shift you need to make to escape complacency is take control of your mind. A lot of what we're talking about here is that your mind directs your behavior. If you do not have control of your mind, it is going to always default, especially under stress or pressure, to what is most comfortable. Your brain wants you to survive. That is its primary focus. Make sure this human being survives. It is not wired to make sure that you are thriving, that you are feeling your best, that you are energized and excited and optimistic about your life. It is not wired to win. It is wired to survive. Two very different things. So that means that most likely there is some default programming or a default record that is playing in the background that you might not be aware of. Think about this example. Imagine you're going into a big presentation, some public speaking opportunity or a sales call, something that requires you to really perform. Your brain or your mind can think of all of the things that you could possibly mess up. You can start running through the things that you should have prepared better for, the things that you didn't do in advance, the things that you forgot to do, and it can start thinking through all those different opportunities to fail. That is going to produce immense anxiety and stress and even overwhelm. But the same exact person in the same exact scenario can recognize that this is a big deal, this is a big meeting or big presentation, and they can think and walk through all the different details of this meeting or this presentation in their mind to ensure that it works out. They can actually perform it in their mind first. The only thing that changed in those two scenarios was what you were thinking about. Taking control of your mind is as simple, not easy, but as simple as redirecting, just like someone redirects traffic. They keep waving their hand, right? They keep telling the next car to go a different direction. They don't just wave it once and assume that everybody's going to follow suit. They keep redirecting. And when we say take control of your mind, this is first and foremost a choice and even a change of belief that you can take control of your mind. But once you make that decision, then it's day in and day out, redirect, and just be really, really aware that your thoughts are the greatest saboteur. They are the sneaky, dressed in black saboteur that is going to tell you you can't do this, you don't have the energy, you don't have the time, and you have to be ready and prepared for that battle.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that the first piece of this is awareness. If you're living on autopilot, you're never going to see that there's something underneath the hood. So become aware. Just become curious. question what you're thinking about. And then underneath that, challenge it. We gave you some frameworks. Is this true? Is it possible it's not true? What would a new belief be? How could I condition that new belief? And then practice. Understand that you are going to fall into those old ways of thinking, which might be, oh my God, I'm going out to eat. They're going to judge me for eating a salad. It's like, well, what am I focused on? Is that true? Is it possible that they're not going to do that? What would I have to believe in order for someone to judge me for eating a salad? Well, I'd have to believe that my friends suck, right? Because they're not really your friends if that's the case. They don't want to see you succeed. And ultimately, they don't want to see you succeed because that means something about them, by the way. It's the right reason why people judge us for doing something is because it means something about them. It doesn't mean anything about you. So again, understand that. And also understand that at times you're going to fall back. There's a really great quote from Nietzsche that says that when we are tired, we are attacked by thoughts we conquered long ago. Right? So we've all experienced those moments where we're like, oh my God, such a long day. I feel so defeated. It's like, yeah, it's understandable that you're going to get into that state. You're going to feel that way. You're going to think that way. Just observe it, challenge it, and then focus on changing it. Right? That 1 millimeter shift can make the world of difference.
Yep.
So here's how you get out of complacency. This is the steps. These are the building blocks you're going to work through as you're getting to that point where you start to challenge yourself and set a new standard.
Yep. First and foremost, you need to decide to win rather than trying to not lose. Huge mindset shift. Second, you need to decide to grow rather than choose what's comfortable. Third, avoid measuring down at all costs. You are aiming up. There is nobody to compare yourself to who is less than where you want to be. Fourth, perform extraction on your limiting beliefs or false beliefs that keep you from achieving what you want. And fifth, take control of your mind. Redirect it daily. Be prepared for those thoughts that will surface when you are tired and when your resources are low, and be ready for that battle. Be ready and know where to redirect when that hits.
So we hope this is helpful. We hope this podcast gives you a new way forward. We hope this challenges you to get to the point where you can be great this season. That's what this is all about, is helping you establish that new ground where you can grow and be your best. If you love this podcast, give it a thumbs up. Leave us a comment, your big takeaway on YouTube, or screenshot and shout us out on Apple Podcasts so we can see how things are going. What are you taking away? But more than anything, thank you for being a part of our team. Thank you for being a part of our audience and community here. Thank you for your ear and your eye as we're here. And now go out, apply this, and conquer your day.
Cheers.
Cheers.